Don't chew on that, Max.
Cooper loves that chew too.
Oh, now he's into Cooper's food. Wow, he is loving it. What do you feed Cooper?
Blue Buffalo Life Protection Formula. He never leaves a crumb. I love it because it's made with high-quality protein, nutrient-rich fruits and veggies, and wholesome whole grains.
Looks like we're switching to Blue.
Blue Buffalo foods are made with the superior ingredients your dog needs to thrive. Can your dog food say that? Visit feedbluefood.com to learn more.
What's up, y'all? It's your host, Will Cooper, coming back for another episode of the HuntStand podcast. On today's episode, we're going to be talking mountain turkey hunting. Now, I know some of y'all might be scratching your heads a little bit whenever you hear that. I know I did myself, but specifically, we're going to be talking Colorado and chasing after some birds in the mountains, public land. Now, I know a lot of y'all, when you hear the word Colorado and it's in reference to hunting, you think elk, mule deer, big game, and that's what you're solely focused on, and turkeys kind of take a back seat to that. So we're going to be getting Jace Bauserman on here today to talk about that, how to do it, where to go to do it, what to look for, and there's going to be some other rabbit holes we go down, but we're going to get Jace on here to talk about that. So if y'all have been tuning into the HuntStand podcast, we just want to say thank you. We greatly appreciate y'all's support. If you haven't yet, go on over, rate, review, subscribe. If y'all can do that, we really appreciate it. It greatly helps us out. Y'all have a lot of other podcasts out there to tune into. There's a ton out there. And so we just want to thank y'all for tuning into the HuntStand podcast. But nonetheless, here's Jace Bauserman, and we hope that y'all enjoy this episode and take something from this and go kill you a big time in the mountains. Jace, man, we just want to thank you for taking the time to hop on the podcast with us today.
Oh, man. Yeah, absolutely. Love it. Always love talking turkeys and trying to get good, solid information out there to help people be more successful in the woods. And yeah, looking forward to talking turkeys, buddy.
Love it, man. Love it. Well, one of the things I like to start out the podcast with is giving us the 30-foot tree stand view of who you are. You know, where are you from, where you live, what do you love about hunting the most, and who got you into it. So let's dive into Jace, man.
Yeah, man. So it's interesting, I guess. I wasn't born in a great hunting family at all. And so I just I spent a lot of time outdoors. We were always, riding dirt bikes, that sort of thing. My dad was a motocross racer. And so we were always outside. And I don't know, I just started to really fall in love with being in the outdoors. I wanted to be out there more and more and more, and started actually reading a lot of different hunting magazines, things like that. And that was kind of my outlet. So, I didn't really have it take me at the start to really show me the ropes, but I got my hands on an old 12 gauge shotgun, pump action, Remington 870 is what it was. My dad just, he trusted me on my dirt bike. He knew that I was an accomplished rider, and he's like, man, hey, those are your wheels if you want to go out and do it that way. So I had a sling on my shotgun, and no duck or goose, pheasant was safe. And then I was really fortunate, blessed to meet some cool people because I was always out there. I was always out there hunting, and I think it just annoyed a lot of guys that were doing it right. You know what I mean? Yeah. When I say doing it right, doing it with decoys, the way waterfowl should be hunted and things like that. And they kind of took me under their wing. And I think it was either take him under our wing or watch him just, continue to run ducks and geese off of fields and river bottoms and things like that. So I was really fortunate. And then I just got into the big game hunting, really fell in love with archery. And shortly out of high school into college, I wanted to write like the guys I, saw and read in magazines and things like that. So I started just submitting query letters just, to different editors and things like that. And super fortunate to meet some good ones, solid guys like Dwight Shue, Bill Krenz. They just pointed me in the right direction and really helped me kind of refine my craft as a writer. And, here I am however many years later, and full-time freelance outdoor writer for just about anybody and everybody. I was the former editor of Bow Hunting World magazine. So been doing it a long time, and just my whole goal is just to help others be successful, because if others hadn't helped me, man, there's no way that I would be doing what I get to do now. So, that's just kind of the roundabout about me.
Sweet, man. I love it. And it's, kind of just backtracking just a quick second, it's pretty awesome that I think that's how the hunting community grows, by us giving back, what we've learned, what was taught to us. And then, like you said yourself, you like helping others out and just essentially passing the torch for later generations.
It is, man. And we get, we get super protective, we get super protective of our spots. We get super protective of this or that, or, but at the end of the day, I mean, there's so much fighting against us as hunters and outdoorsmen right now. We can't be, we've got to be the solution and not the problem. We've got to be the light and not just, go after each other. It's just, there's a lot of things out there, but, I just try to keep a real positive outlook on things and just keep pushing forward every day, trying to be better. And, that's just kind of my whole goal.
That's all you got to do, man. That's all you got to do. But you got to kind of keep those little hunting holes, kind of secretive. And
yeah.
And, it's kind of funny. We're talking Colorado here in a little bit and mountain birds and all that. It's funny that we're doing this because I've actually got my 2022 Colorado big game book in front of me, because before we hopped on this call, I was actually put in my application for archery elk. So, man, it's exciting. But let's dive into turkey hunting, man. I want to specifically, let's talk turkey hunting, public land in Colorado, mountain birds,
Yep.
Where do you start? I think that's kind of the main thing.
That's it. Yeah, and it is. And here's the deal with killing mountain birds or killing canyon country birds. There's two types of terrain in Colorado where you can really hunt public land birds for Merriam birds, and we should probably talk about them both. But the hardest thing to killing a Merriam bird is finding them, because you are not hunting a 60-acre timber block where those birds basically live all the time. You're not hunting a river corridor or things like that. You are hunting vast endless acres of public land. And so one of the easiest ways to find birds when you're hunting mountain terrain is this time of year right now. Our season starts April 9th. And this time of year right now, what's happening is a lot of birds, winter flocks, they move clear down off of the mountains, and they'll move into mountain valleys and things like that. And they'll get in private areas mostly. They'll get down on some private land, ag, hay fields, things like that, where guys are feeding their cows every day, their mountain cattle, horses, whatever. But as those mountain slopes start to warm and that snow line starts to regress, those birds will follow that snow line up the mountain. And one of the biggest tips I can give is know where the snow line is where you are going to hunt, because those birds are going to be right below it. And I mean, when I say right below it, I mean at it or directly below it. Okay. And the reason for that is because there's bug life starting to hatch in those areas. There's bugs starting to fly around, and in addition to that, you got your new shoots of green grass starting to come up. They can scratch for seeds, all of these different types of things. So it's definitely a food driven thing as they follow that snow line up the mountain. And then in addition to that, Merriam birds love, like most turkeys, they love big, long ridges. They love flat ridges where they can be up on top and roost in a very large ponderosa pine. If you can find a ridge with pondees on it, big tall pondees, and especially if that gives way to like a snowline mountain meadow or something along those lines, you're probably in the chips. Ski slopes, in Colorado, a lot of areas you can actually hunt in and around the ski slopes, and those ski slopes are just open meadow feeding zones. So those types of things are great ways to find those mountain birds, but it all really revolves around the snow line, especially early in the season. Later on, those birds are going to spread out, and they're going to wander from one area to the next. And Merriams are nomadic, opportunistic wanderers. They have no problem walking miles and miles and miles and miles from one spot to the next, just in search of hens. Because again, these aren't condensed, right? They're not just condensed into a small area. A tom, that's why Merriams often get labeled with, they just come running to a call, and they're stupid. it's not that they're stupid, and it's not that they come running to a call, but sometimes this might be the only call that bird's ever heard. And in addition to that, they know that, hey, they're used to like, man, I'm just going walkabout. And so when they hear a hen yelp from a very long distance, they know, oh my gosh, there's one over there. I need to respond and get this party started, because they might have been walking for a mile or 2 miles without even seeing a hen, especially later in the season.
Okay, so one of the things I want to ask, with this being Colorado, there's lots of public land. Are these tags over the counter, or are they draw? Mm-hmm. How does that work with Colorado and turkeys? Especially, somebody like me that's a non-resident that might want to try and do a Grand Slam and they want to come to Colorado. How does that work?
Right. So here's the deal. So in most units in Colorado, most your mountain and canyon units, they are over the counter. Now, not all of them, but I would say upwards of 80% of them are.
Okay.
Now, there's also draw tags in Colorado. The cool thing is if you do apply for a draw tag, and a lot of your draw tags are the river bottom Rios, right? They're your creek bottoms, because in Colorado, like especially where I live, the Arkansas River is a mile from where I'm sitting right now.
Okay.
And we've got a population of Rio Grande birds there. But that's a draw unit. So the cool thing is you can get a draw tag, and then you can buy an over-the-counter tag, and you can actually have two Colorado tags. Tags aren't real hard to draw, but let's put it this way, all the mountain units and canyonland units that I hunt are over-the-counter.
Okay.
Anybody just show up and buy them at Walmart.
Gotcha. So the property that you're hunting, is it primarily public land, or do you have public land that butts right up to private, kind of around that Durango area? You have some of those crop fields, or what? Tell us about kind of the terrain and the features that you're hunting.
So where I'm at, I'm not over by Durango. I'm actually over I'm in the southeast side. So I'm over by La Junta.
Okay.
Which is just a little no-name map dot town, southeast Colorado. So no, I mean, my river bottom stuff is private stuff.
Okay.
I grew up, so I know a lot of the farmers. So I have access to river bottom birds right here. But all but one little chunk of my Merriam stuff is all mountain birds, canyonland birds, that sort of stuff. It's totally public land, and a lot of it is public that butts up to private. And I try to look for it. Something else you can think about is try to look for those private land areas where birds are spending their winter, because they're going to access that immediate national forest areas or BLM or whatever it is. Once those slopes the snow starts to melt out, they're going to come off of those private land areas and start to, spreading out up into the mountains.
Gotcha.
So know where birds are concentrated during those winter months. And right now, even our birds here are still pretty much in wintertime flocks. They're just now starting to break up a little bit. But, if you know where they are, and you can say, okay, there's a great chance to use your HuntStand app, man. I mean, you're looking at your app, you're seeing areas, and you're like, okay, these birds are really concentrated in this guy's cattle pasture. Well, this guy's cattle pasture is large, and it butts up to about some south-facing slopes that are going to warm quickly, going to get that snow melted off. That's probably where those birds are going to move towards as they start to spread out their rut and follow that snow line up the mountain.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was gonna ask that. Coming back to that whole wintering bird, like where y'all get some crazy snowfall up, especially in the mountains. Like, how do these birds survive? Where do they go?
Dude, they're so tough. They're so tough. And honestly, a lot of them will go. I mean, you can literally drive past a rancher's. When I say rancher, I mean, I'm talking, a guy up in a mountain valley. Let's just say that. Up in a mountain valley, he's having to push snow to even go feed his cattle, drop them hay, wheat hay, oat hay, whatever, just straight alfalfa, those types of things. Those birds will actually roost sometimes in that guy's yard, because they're just flying up into whatever tree that they have access to around there, or if he has some, little creek, mountain creek bottom, that sort of thing. Then they can fly into those pastures and they can dig through the cow crap. They can, peck at the leftover grain, any of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's really, really how they make it. But they're amazing because they're so nomadic and they're so opportunistic. And later, into April, middle of May, it's not uncommon to find a Miriam above 10,000 feet.
God,
I mean,
that was my next question. Was like, with this elevation?
Yeah, they're gonna go. They get up and go and walk and move, and they'll really spread out. They're not afraid to get up there into the high country at all. I've never seen a bird. I wouldn't say I've ever seen a bird over like 10-1.
Okay.
That 10,000 is kind of the cap for them. But they will get up there. They'll get up there and roam around and especially, as the snow completely starts to dissipate and more ground opens up for them to access.
What would you say is kind of the elevation zone, if you will, that
sweet spot for mountain birds?
Yeah.
It's the sweet spot for mountain birds is going to be between about 7,000 and 9,000.
Okay.
That's going to be your money zone. 7,000 to 9,000 is where you're going to want to spend a lot of your time. Right now, those birds are about as low as they can get because we still do have, our mountain stuff has gotten hammered with some snow and things like that. But 7,000 to 9,000 is a good elevation line. But again, so much of the early season stuff revolves around where that snow line is.
Okay.
So, where that snow line is all the time. And people will say, like, well, how do I know that? How do I know where the snow line is? How do I know where the snow line is? Man, call the National Forest Service office. They're everywhere out west. You just call them and say, hey, what elevation's your snow line at? And I've had to tell me, I don't know. I've never had anybody ask that for me, but I can find out for you. And then they ask a guy that's out there, and that's pretty easy. They know where the snow line is. They've got maps and markers and indicators, and they can tell you, hey, current snow line is at 6,200 feet, in this area. That's about where the snow line is. Okay, well, you need to concentrate at 6,198 feet, that area.
So, yeah. With you being in Colorado, when it comes to, you've got a lot of snow on the ground, basically leading up to opening of turkey season. So are you getting some boots on the ground where you're going to go hunting, or you heavily relying on e-scouting? Like, what's kind of your process before you go diving in?
Man, honestly, for me, most of these spots I've been hunting for a very long time.
Okay.
I don't put near the boots on the ground as I used to. But if you are able to, that is the best way. E-scouting for turkeys, western birds is kind of hard. It just is. It's not impossible because, again, you can triangulate, right?
Yeah.
You know elevation of snow line. You can where private property is. You can know where south-facing mountain slopes are. You can find, long ridges with ponderosa pines, or just, pondies are their favorite, but tall pines, if there's no pondies in the area, those sorts of things. And you can start to piece stuff together.
Yeah.
You can start to piece stuff together. But one of the best ways is just to if you have an area that looks good, somebody invented an area, you think you're onto something on your mapping, on your HuntStand system. You think you're really onto something. My suggestion is arrive a couple days early, and dedicate more time into scouting and less time into hunting. Because once you find them, you're going to kill them. And I don't lightly. It's true. If you are a good turkey hunter and you find birds and they're not being pressured by other hunters, you're going to kill them. So again, the hardest part is often finding them. And you just have to be willing to burn some boot leather. And you really need to be able to burn some boot leather. If there's spots that I have and, people will say, oh no, there's no way you did that for a turkey. Well, I love turkeys. So there's been people that I've taken that are like, oh my gosh, you really did do that. I've got a spot that's an 11-mile walk. And there's no other way to access it. There is zero way to access it.
That was my next question for you. Is like, I was going to ask you,
now that's extreme, right? That is extreme. Don't get me wrong. I've killed mountain birds 200 yards off a 4-wheel access road.
Yeah.
That's the facts. But this spot, I know that I can go in there and I'm going to be hunting turkeys that probably not seen another human since I was in there last time. There's a few people that know where it's at, but the last time I was in there, which was, I didn't go in there this last year, but I took my son in there the year before, my daughter in there the year before, myself, and a really, really good friend.
Mm-hmm.
And we killed 4 birds in there in 4 trips.
Wow.
So we made, and it's silly. I mean, I think there was 19 toms.
Good night.
And yeah, I mean, so, and they're just gobbling to beat the band. I mean, it's the time, you can't do anything wrong. I mean, they're just going off in there. So it's just the willingness to go, okay, this spot looks like it, and you got to remember too, Merriam birds are vocal. They have the weakest gobble of all the subspecies. I've talked to some NWTF biologists about this, and they concur that the Merriam bird, though it's an extremely large bird because of where it lives, vocality of that bird is not great, but they love to gobble. And so what you can do is, a lot of times I just like to get up and access high points, put your locator calls to work. I like a hawk screech. I like something that screams when I'm locating birds out west. Okay. I mean, I want that is piercing, because that mountain air will carry it, right? You have relatively low humidity. In mountains, there's very little humidity most of the time, especially that time of year. And so your air is not super dense. So that call is that's gonna travel, and it's gonna get out there. And those birds can just hear it. And if you can get one to shock, or if you get up in an area, if I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a turkey track here, there's a scratch here, there's a dropping here, I'll get the highest point that I can, and I'll just sit. Because I might have to sit for 2-3 hours. I might have to take a mountain house up there. But eventually a bird's going to gobble, and I'm going to be able to pinpoint that. And then I can start using my mapping system, right? Then I can be scouting while I'm actually hands-on scouting to start to triangulate the piece of the puzzle. Then I can figure out, okay, there's a Ponderosa Ridge here. That's a likely roosting spot. That bird, I glassed him up with my optics, which is another huge tip. Western hunters coming turkey hunting, best optics you can afford need to be around your neck. I just saw a bird strutting in a mountain valley. There's a good pondy ridge right here, lots of food in between. Now I can start putting the pieces of the puzzle together, and I can then figure out how I'm going to kill that bird, or the birds that I'm seeing.
All right, y'all, we're going to interrupt this podcast real quick just to thank a few partners of ours. One of those partners we want to thank is Federal Ammunition. It's federal season, and there's nothing louder than a gobble from a longbeard that struts into range, or silence as complete as after you take the shot. Celebrate the ultimate rite of spring with Federal. And next, we want to thank Work Sharp Tools. Sharpen every knife you own. These have been some great partners of ours, and they've supported us, and we just wanted to thank them and say we appreciate everything that they've done for us. But now we're going to get right back to this episode of the HuntStand podcast. Gotcha. So kind of going back to that, you've got this sweet spot where these birds are far in, right?
Yeah.
Are you putting camp on your back and going in, or are you coming back out every day?
In this particular spot, I am staying. I will camp, but I have to access, there's only certain locations within this area of BLM that you can camp. So it's basically one of those deals where I'm going in and coming about halfway back out, and actually having to get out of the area and camp so that I can camp legally. Okay.
So when you're going in there, like on these far hikes like this, are you dragging decoys in with you, man?
So if I'm bow hunting, now, I used to, right? What I used to do is I used to haul a double bull in there in February, right? Or March. Yeah. Or as soon as I could, right? I would get a double bull in there, and I'd actually stash it and haul some decoys in there and stash those so they were in there. And I was like, man, this is too much. So what I started doing was just going the bow mounted route. So now I just take a bow mounted decoy in my pack, and I just run and gun those birds is what we do. And if I'm shotgunning, absolutely 100%, we're reaping. I mean, that's what we're doing in there. Okay. We're just going we're reaping those mountain birds. I'm usually the one that bow hunts it, because everybody else is like, man, I ain't taking a bow arrow. When I see it, I want to kill it. We're taking a shotgun, and I'm all about that too. But I like to bow hunt them in there, and when you get into a concentration of that many Merriam birds and they're getting after it pretty good, bow mounted decoy can just be super, super effective. And so that allows me to stay mobile, stay lightweight, not have to haul a blind, not have to haul decoys and all this extra gear. It's a bow mounted decoy, some calls, and I'm set.
I like it, man.
Yeah,
staying lightweight and just diving in, man. So, I think some people want to hear this too. Like, what's your camp setup like? Are you dragging in one person tents, the jet boil route? Like, are you basically taking in the same setup that you are for elk?
Yep, it's an elk hunt. I mean, and I've read a lot of articles about it, but it is an elk hunt, and I spent too many nights early in my hunting career hunting elk, sleeping in a coffin, which by that I mean a bivy sack. So now I'll tote the extra weight, man. I'll take a 2-man tent. If there's more of us, I'll take a 3 or 4-man tent, and we'll just spread out the weight between our packs. If I'm solo, or with my son or my daughter or something, I just pack in a 2-man tent, super lightweight tent. Our sleeping bag rolls, jet boil, mountain houses, that sort of stuff. Just the stuff that you would use if you were getting, okay, man, I'm going on a Western elk hunt here, because in essence, that's what you're doing. Right. And another cool thing about it when you're hunting turkeys this way is you can find some really super sweet elk spots by doing this, because you're out there and you're in territory where elk live. And, I found multiple deep canyons and, cuts and ridges and benches and drainages and things like that you end up walking through, and you get in there like you're not seeing elk, but there's a rub on every tree, and there's massive beds and lots of old droppings and things like that. And so, like, man, you pull out your map and you pull out your HuntStand app and you mark that up, and now you start thinking, okay, pretty cool, I'm going to be back in here. I'm at least going to check it in the fall.
Yeah,
I'm going to come in here to see what it looks like. So when you're out there doing that sort of stuff, that's what I love about doing it is you can serve so many purposes. And, they're a beautiful bird. They're white tipped. They don't gobble super hard because their vocality isn't the best, but they gobble a lot. They will, respond to calls well. And, the other thing that it will help you be a better turkey hunter because it forces you to be out there all day. It just forces you to do it. I see too many people turkey hunting that are like, man, well, I didn't get him off the roost. Didn't work, and by 8:15, they're out of there, and for me, my best time to kill turkeys is between 10 and noon. That might be for me, but, that's my best time. I mean, we were in Nebraska this last week, and that's hunting, private land, kind of river corridor, riparian habitat birds. And I killed 2 birds and my buddy killed 3, and all 5 of those birds were killed between 10 and 11:02.
Dang.
Because I document everything, so it's like when you're hunting mountain birds and you're in deep, you don't have any choice. You're there. I mean, what are you going to do? Turn around and walk out and try to be back in there by, no, you're out there and you got to hunt. And I think it's helped me become a better hunter just in general.
Yeah. Man, I like that. I do. So I want to talk calling. I've done some podcasts here recently and talked with some other guys that, depending on what subspecies they're hunting, where they're hunting, it'll depend on how aggressive they are with their calling, or if they're going to play hard to get. So, what's your style when you're attacking these Merriams in the mountains?
So my style is, a guy told me once, first time I ever hunted in Kansas. A guy told me, hey, man, deer calls were meant to be used in Kansas.
Yeah.
He's like, those horns together. So I believe the same thing about mountain Merriams. Turkey calls were meant to be used for mountain Merriams because they will come so far. I mean, it's ridiculous how far a bird will come, because if you're in an open, like Canyonland type country or lower mountain country, and you're running through glass, right? I mean, I've watched birds, I've called at birds and watched them gobble. I can't hear them, but I can see them throw the neck forward and hammer and come from 500-600 yards. I mean, that's ridiculous, but it's a fact. And so, again, I do play on, okay, how are they acting, right? Like, if I'm in an area where when hens are really talking, if you're getting around hens and they're really vocal after coming off the roost, or they fire up around 9 o'clock, toms are really gobbling. I don't think you can be too aggressive with Merriam birds. I really don't.
Okay.
I think in most cases, the more aggressive, the better. Now, again, the same holds true though. If you're out there and you know where birds are, and it's like, man, gobbled a couple times on the roost, hens, you got some tree yelps, maybe got a fly down cackle or something like that, and then boom, zero. And they're not talking a whole lot, and they're not. Well, I kind of try to match that. Most instances, Merriam birds are very responsive to calling. If again, it all relates back to pressure too. If it's a spot where these birds have had everything in the kitchen sink thrown in, maybe not so much. But if you're hunting unpressured birds, man, and another tip I'll give when calling is don't be afraid to get really loud. And when I say really loud, I mean really loud. I mean, don't be afraid to get a box call that just cuts, man, hammers and pierces. Because again, we want that sound to carry, right? We really want that sound to carry. And I've located so many birds that way. Just getting up on a ridge or a bench or a high spot and just letting that box call eat and get a bird to fire that maybe is far off. Like, what was that? Like when an elk bugles, like, was that a bugle? Was that a gobble?
Mm-hmm.
And you sit there for a minute and yep, that was for sure a gobble, because when you get one usually to hit it that way, he's gonna and you stop, he's gonna continue to fire because he wants to know, okay, he's thinking the same thing. Well, where are you? I need a hint. I'm way over here. So those are just some calling tips, man.
Gotcha. So one of the kind of the funny things that I've heard with turkey hunting is that turkeys don't run downhill to a calls.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard that myth before?
Yeah. I have.
Would you say that that's totally debunked with these mountain birds?
To a degree, because they don't have a choice a lot of times. The terrain is undulating, so it's so up and down, right?
Yeah.
So it kind of goes out. I still would prefer a bird to have to come up to me.
Yeah.
That's or if I can get on, that's why I like benches and ridges and stuff like that. If I can get on the same plane as them, kind of like an elk, I'll parallel birds until I find the right terrain.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of like I will an elk. If I have to follow a group of birds and tail them and keep tabs on them as they move up a drainage or as move along a bench or a ridge line or something like that, I will until I get to a point where I'm like, okay, we're on even playing field. I'm here. I know you're there, but you don't know I'm here. Now I'm going to start the game. But yeah, I mean, don't think a bird won't come downhill. Just, the thing about when they come downhill, the big talk is, well, they have the advantage because they can see. And we both know everybody knows how well turkeys see. So if you are going to try to drag one and he's going to have to come down, I definitely would like to, a decoy set. If you're shotgun hunting, a decoy set is probably super important for something like that. And if you're bow hunting, same. But again, you can always, of course, go like I do with the bow mounted decoy. But yeah, I mean, I've killed turkeys that have come downhill to me. I've killed Merriam birds that have come downhill on a sprint.
Dang.
You
Yeah.
can't get there fast because they might not have heard a hen in 4 days. They're 2-year-old pair of 2-year-old gobblers that have been kicked off of the main flock by the older birds, and they've really been pushed off. So they went walkabout and they got out in the wilderness and they're like, crap, there's no hens here. I got to start working my way back. And you just happen to catch them out somewhere. That's happened to me a lot,
Jeez.
and those birds are like, they're they're coming because that's why they they didn't want to leave that group. They didn't want to leave those hens. They're sick of getting the crap kicked out of them every day and having to deal with this. So they were like, well, piss on it. I'm going to go find my own group of hens. Well, as it turns out, there wasn't any hens over there. Now I'm 4 miles from the main flock. But wait a minute, that was a hen. Well, it's true, but you're using your hen calls and it's like, boom, you're in the chips that quick.
Heck yeah. So one of the things I want to ask you, I'd say for the non-resident guy that wants to come hunt in Colorado, what is probably your best advice or best couple of pieces of advice for that guy that's wanting to come to Colorado and chase these mountain birds?
So the first thing is that first year, right? The first time you come, have low expectations. And I don't want anybody to hear that the wrong way. I don't mean not set goals, because I'm a big goal-oriented person.
Yeah.
What I mean is having low expectations is it might take you one full hunt just to figure out, think of how long sometimes it takes to figure out a 340-acre section of dirt.
Yeah.
You might be figuring out a 30,000-acre piece of, whatever, where you need to first think about, okay, my goal of coming out here is I want to find some birds. I want to learn what these birds do, and I want to find them where I'm at. And that is one of the biggest pieces of advice. Don't come out with just the expectation that you're just going to come out here and hit a box call and hold, well, Merriam are so stupid, they come running. If you get around them, possibly. But if you're not around them, so you need to be able to develop your system for finding birds. And then once you locate birds, again, using your scouting, scout more, hunt less type of mentality, and really try to hone in on what those birds are doing. Because if you can string together spots, typically those spots will be turkey spots year after year after year. So, that first year you coming out, use it as a great trip to come out and say, hey, I'm going to look for some shed antlers. I'm going to find me an elk spot. I'm going to find these turkeys. Hey, maybe I'll kill one. But overall, I'm using this as a development process to finding some Western spots where then I know that, hey, the next year, man, I'm out there and I'm in the chips. You might find a great spot with 5 hours left in your hunt and go, oh, if I just had 2 more days, but you got to go back. Mm-hmm. Well, that's a great thing here. You know what I mean? So that's what I do when I have, say, lower expectations. The other thing, and this is the most important one, you're going to have to go. And I mean, you got to get off the beaten path in most instances. Like I said, I have killed a lot of birds, a lot of them, 100 yards off an access road, driving my truck, get lucky, right? See some birds cutting across the ridgeline, going through a meadow. But the best turkey hunting I've had, the best spots that I have are all more than 3 miles off of an access road. Yeah. All of them, every single one of them. So you have to invest some time into going into an area just to check it out and realizing, crap, I just walked through and this spot sucks. It's a ghost town. Okay, well, that's too bad, so sad. That's the way it is. Mm-hmm. Check that spot off the list and move to the next one. And that relates to into going into that lower expectation deal, because you, just like with elk, you're going to go to spots that you thought were going to be really something. Maybe a biologist even told you it was awesome, or a friend told you, or you struck up a conversation with somebody on social media, but you got in there and it was not what you were expecting. You can't dwell on it. You just have to go, okay, well, 3 miles back to the truck and another 4 miles up the trailhead, and I'm walking another 2 miles into my next spot. You just kind of have to have that mentality.
Got it. So, yeah, what I'm hearing is, man, it's super, super similar to doing an elk hunt out there. There's lots of similarities.
It is. It's a feathered elk. I mean, when you think about it, they're vocal. A lot of people always say, you actually comparing turkey hunting to elk hunting? Absolutely. I hunt them the same way. And I've got a lot of good buddies that are Western elk killers. I mean, these guys that are, 10%ers, they're getting it done every year on public land on elk. Mm-hmm. And they'll tell you the thing. They'll say, man, when you go hunt mountain turkeys, you hunt them like you hunt elk. So when you do start to kill mountain turkeys, it's like a gateway drug for the West. I mean, you come out and you start shooting Merriam birds, come out and, spend that $700-800, whatever ridiculous amount we're charging now for a non-tag, and come out and try your hand at that, because you're going to find some spots. You're going to develop some ideas and theories and things like that. And then you can go put those ideas to practice, It's just, it's a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity for any hunter.
Love it, man. Well, you got any other kind of last golden nuggets, any special secret sauce recipes you want to share with the listeners on mountain birds?
Yeah. Something else to keep in mind. Don't overlook foothills either. Don't over, Colorado's got a lot of foothills. When I say foothills, I mean more like cedar country, right? Less pines, more cedars, and pinyon. Pinyon is a pine, but it's a different type of pine. But look for those cedar countries. Pinyon, pine, canyony type country can be really good. We got a lot of like real deep canyons that have, even if they're dry creeks running through them,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times you can narrow your search on where birds are going to be because they're going to be somewhere along that trickle of a creek or a dry creek. Their roosting sites are limited, so if you can zoom in on your maps and find the pond or find the cottonwoods, that's where your birds are going to be roosting. It kind of convinces things for people a little bit. So that's one thing. Don't just think about mountains entirely. And the other one is, if you are going to do, if you're going to, you think, hey man, I'm going to have to camp. I'm going to have to spend some time out there. Don't make it uncomfortable. That's just one tip I'm gonna give. I've done too many elk hunts. I've done too many Western turkey hunts where I'm just like, I made it super uncomfortable. And what I mean by that is, food selections sucked. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, my food selection sucked. I didn't take a little blow up or self-inflatable mattress pad. I went the bare minimum on my sleeping bag. I froze to death because it's still 12 degrees up there in some places at night. Plan your gear accordingly.
Yeah.
And then you be comfortable. And when you're comfortable and you're well fueled, and by well fueled, I mean you're eating well, you're taking in a lot of calories because you're going to burn a lot of calories.
Mm-hmm.
You're taking in, 2,000 to 3,000 calories a day because you're going to be burning that easily in most instances. And you're replacing it with good protein, good carbohydrates, lots of water. You're just going to feel better, and you're going to be up there, and because it's easy to get out there and get discouraged very quickly. Be like, there isn't a bird within miles, and I've been out here for 2 days, and I'm tired, and this sucks. And it's like, well, I'm going to go. And you just, if you can take and be comfortable, and even if it causes you a little extra weight to tote, comfort in a lot of instances is key to being successful, in my opinion.
Yeah, man, it's funny that you're saying this because I went elk hunting this past September up in Colorado, and the guys that I went with, they were making fun of me when I was packing up. We were putting our packs together at base camp. We were going to go spike camp in, and they're like, man, why are you taking all that stuff? I had my 0 degree bag. I had my inflatable mattress pad. I had enough food. I made sure that, I had the bare necessities that I would still be comfortable but not be miserable. And one of the guys didn't take a sleeping bag. The other one didn't take a inflatable pad because he wanted to cut on weight. And it was funny. We set up our camps. We ate dinner that night, and we woke up the next morning. There's frost everywhere. It was just one of those cold mountain mornings. And I wake up, I got condensation on the inside of my tent. It was nice and warm, bundled up, and I step outside and they're huddling around this little fire. I'm like, dang, what's wrong? I was like, oh man, I froze my ass off last night. I'm like,
you did.
Well, I bet you did. Well, guess what? I sweat my ass off last night. So
that's right, man. That's right. And you're getting better sleep. You're sleeping more, and all that goes back to being able to stay out there and make good decisions and have clarity and not be miserable, and because things will start to tug on you.
It really it gives you that edge.
It does, for sure. It does, no question.
Sweet. Well, man, I think we may have kind of opened up a little can of worms on mountain birds, because, like I said, you don't hear about people. When people talk about Colorado, they're talking about elk and mule deer, and I don't think you hear it much on turkeys. And so that's why I wanted to do this podcast with you is to talk turkey hunting, talk the mountains, because everybody's always talking southeast birds, and I think we may have opened up a can of worms here, man.
No, I one thing I tell guys all the time, and they're like, were you trying to create more competition? And I said at the start, I had too many people help me. I had too many people point me in the right direction. Too many people, share some spots with me, things like that, to help me be successful. And I wouldn't be hunting with those people. So, I'm always open to, this is a fact, is that Colorado has more turkeys than it does turkey hunters. That's a fact. So keep that in mind, we have good numbers of birds, and that's the way it is across the West. I mean, Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, a lot of your Western states are turkey rich. So yeah, it's just another opportunity to get out there, chase another subspecies, lots of public land. And you can really get out there and have some fun.
Heck yeah, man. I think definitely going to have to put this on the list, the hunt list here, in addition to all the many other hunts I want to try and do before I get too old.
Absolutely.
Well, man, I really appreciate you hopping on the podcast with me today, talking turkey hunting, and man, I know we're going to get you back on here. We're going to talk big game and elk later on in the year, but man, just appreciate you taking the time to hop on with me.
Anytime, bud. Thanks for having me.
You bet. And there you have it, everybody. Another HuntStand podcast episode. We just want to thank Jace for hopping on the podcast, talking mountain turkeys with us, going down some rabbit holes, and trying to figure out this whole public land turkey hunting thing. It's unfamiliar to me. I'm a Texas boy, and so I was really happy to get to be able to pick Jace's brain on this. But nonetheless, we just want to thank all of y'all for tuning into the HuntStand podcast, and we will see you on the next one.
LifeLock, how can I help?
The IRS said I filed my return,
But I haven't.
1 in 4 tax-paying Americans has paid the price of identity fraud.
What do I do?
My refund, though.
I'm freaking out.
Don't worry, I can fix this.
LifeLock fixes identity theft guaranteed and gets your money back with up to $3 million in coverage.
I'm so relieved.
No problem. I'll be with you every step of the way.
1 in 4 was a fraud-paying American. Not anymore. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.